with this next clinic. My name is Doug Blevins, and I'm going to be co-presenting here with our guest. This afternoon, this is Michael Berner from the United States Pershing's Own band. And so we're going to do a little presentation here today on aspiring musicians. Michael is homegrown. He is from Arkansas. He's a product of the Arkansas Public Schools and the ASBOA band programs. And so the title here is from middle school at Carnegie Hall, the White House. And I'll never forget, there was a time when I got a text from Michael. I believe it was Easter Sunday morning, and he's sitting on the stage looking out in Carnegie Hall, and he sent me a text. Oh, right, you know, always been talking about it. He sent me a text. He said, from Kirksey Middle School to Carnegie Hall. And it was really cool, you know, to get that. And so anyway, I'm going to get this together, and it's going to be good. So I want to give you my story real quick. There's a picture of yours truly in the high school marching band. And I am a product, too, of the Arkansas schools. Grew up in a very small school, Pea Ridge High School. And I had 5 different band directors in my time. And I'm going to throw some names out because some of you might know these. Back in the day, Pea Ridge was a 1A high school. Before the reconfiguration, that's when they only had 5A total. Richard Day was my beginning band teacher. He was originally from Bruno Payette. He has since passed away. He was followed by Andrea McKinney. She was my 7th grade band director. A guy named Dale Foster was my 8th grade band director. So I had 3 years, 3 band directors there. Followed by Randy Mueller, who has since passed away, but he was my 9th and 10th grade band director. Followed by David Dickey, who was my 11th and 12th grade band director. David Dickey. So you can see that I had quite a tough road to go down when I started playing trombone. In fact, I was told by my neighbor that I was too small and would probably not be a good trombone player, so I just wanted to show him. I don't know how you tell an 11-year-old that you're too small, because we're kind of all very small when we're 11, but I had to buy my own first instrument. Walking up and down the dirt roads of Pea Ridge. Luckily, my house was about 6-8 minutes away from the closest liquor store, and so that's where all the cans seemed to jump out of the cars. And so I could pick up cans along the side of the road, aluminum cans, take them down to the recycle place. And my first trombone cost $100 at the local pawn shop. It was an old Con, Cleveland 605, I think is what it was. And it wasn't in great shape, but hey, it was a trombone, and I mowed my neighbor's lawn for $7 a week. Okay, so it kind of shows my age, I guess. But $7 a week, and all the cans I could find from the guys driving up and down the dirt roads, and I paid cash for my very own first trombone. And I told my parents that first year in 6th grade, I said, hey, I want to grow up and I want to be in a major parade one of these days on TV. I was watching the Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade, and my parents laughed at me, and they said, you're from Pea Ridge, and that ain't going to happen. You know, you're from a really small school in Arkansas, and that's just not attainable. And so I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. The next year, I remember seeing marching bands on TV at some bowl games around Christmas. So I told my parents, not only was I going to march in a major parade on TV, but I wanted to be the guy in front. I wanted to be the drum major of a major band someday. And once again, they said, excuse me, son, you're from Pea Ridge. You're from a little tiny place. That can't happen. And so here we are for Pea Ridge. Now, my 9th grade band director, Randy, offered to take me to the University of Arkansas once a week to take some lessons from Professor Gerald Sloan. And so I took lessons from him. My mom agreed to pay for those lessons, and then she bought me my first new trombone. It was a Holton F attachment. They don't even make it anymore. TR-158, I think is what it was. They don't make it anymore, but that was the horn my daughter still plays, and I played all through high school and college. And eventually, I could drive myself. My dad loaned me his truck. I'd drive back and forth to Fayetteville for lessons. And then in one of my final lessons, I had the opportunity to hear the Dallas Brass, the original group of the Dallas Brass with Michael Levine. And I think it was 1988, 1989. And I was inspired. I worked hard, had a lot of fun doing it. but I only really ever just made it barely into the bottom parts of the all-state band in Arkansas. Never really achieved that real top success, but I did make the bottom part, which from Pea Ridge, that's kind of a big deal, right? Pea Ridge finally made the list at All-State. And so there we are. I made it. I had 2 scholarship offers back in the day, one from the University of Arkansas, one from Missouri State. What's now Missouri State was SNSU at the time. I went to Arkansas Governor School, did all those kind of things. I was always wanting to be a Hog, so I chose the University of Arkansas. Worked out. So guess what? I'm a sophomore in college, and just so happens that year, the governor of the state of Arkansas was elected as president of the United States. So guess who got to march in a major parade on television? The little guy from Pea Ridge, Arkansas. And so I worked out, I worked hard, I tried out every single year for drum major at the University of Arkansas. I watched lots of George Parks videos, I watched a lot of Tim Bossenheiser videos, Frank Kick videos, and tried to learn leadership, do the best I could. And in my senior year of college, I was chosen as one of the drum majors for the marching Razorback band. And so there I got to go to a bowl game. I got to be the kid on TV in front of a large band. So the 2 things that I wanted to do as a 6th and 7th grader that I was told, you cannot do this because you're from a small place in Arkansas. That this doesn't happen. It happened to me, and I was able to achieve that. And so I went on from there. I told Mr. Sloan that I need to be a good player, but I really wanted to focus on the pedagogy. I really wanted to teach. So him and I went round and around about that because he really wanted me to be a professional player, and I really just wanted to learn how to teach the thing. And so we did that, 29 years of teaching. I've had many students who have excelled, but really only about 3 that stand out, who became really the absolute best. Michael Berner, who is standing right here today, and you're going to hear from him in a second. One young man from Rogers who's finished at Georgia Tech and became an engineer in the Atlanta area. And then another young man from Harrison who was a struggling 7th grader, couldn't even scratch at all reaching, and after his first year of lessons and getting going, he was first band, first chair in his 8th grade year and moved up from there. So we've had some success, we've inspired some musicians, and so I'm going to let Michael talk to you a little bit about his path, and here you have the mic, you got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Does this work?
You're on.
I'm going to hope for the best. So, I'm Michael Berner. I grew up in Rogers. Rogers is a town in the northwest part. It's Bentonville's little brother, little sister, whatever you want to call it, city. And from an early age, I just really enjoyed music, like all of us that are here in this room. Music is something that's very pleasing, it's very soothing. I had piano lessons, like many people did. I had a teacher that was very fond of a ruler whenever he made a mistake, so piano didn't last very long for me. So when I was very young, I really enjoyed dinosaurs. Does anyone like dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are awesome, right? So my parents took me to Chicago, to the Field Museum, to see, at the time, what was the largest T-Rex that had been dug up. It was an amazing experience. My mother, rest her soul, she said, I really want to go to the symphony. I want to get culture. I went to the symphony, and we heard the piece start. It was a trumpet player playing. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Now I know that's Mahler's 5th Symphony, but I thought that was really cool, so I said I wanted to do that. My father said immediately, no, there's no way we're getting a noisemaker, it's not happening. Fast forward, 5th grade, we get to go to the middle school and pick out an instrument. So like many of you, I went to the middle school and picked out an instrument. I wanted to play trumpet so badly, because it was such an awesome instrument. I walked in, I saw this man sitting down there behind a table with all these instruments, and he said, what do you want to play? I picked up the trumpet, and couldn't get a single sound to come out. It sounded like the zoo probably. I was a little sad, and so I asked what other instruments I could try. He suggested tuba, but first I would have to play this weird instrument called euphonium for a year before I could play tuba. So that wasn't going to happen. And then, on this first day, he hands me a trombone. From there, it was something that kept happening. It ended up being something that kept spiraling for me because music was super fun. We had band, I think, every other day for 6th grade, at least the first semester. And you went to art class or computer class. We had keyboarding back then. So that wasn't really it for me, but music was really cool. Music was really, really fun. It was a culture where we had nothing but good times. Every day we were gonna play music, we were gonna get inspired. And Mr. Blevins taught the trombone class. He taught only trombones in that class, which was something that I didn't realize was special until I got older. But in that year, he would play for us every day, and every day we would try to get just a little bit better. I kept progressing until 7th grade. 7th grade is finally the whole band class. We had the first thing that was a huge motivator for me, a chair test. How many of you guys do chair tests with your students? How many of you guys think it's terrible, toxic, and don't do that? It's okay, you can raise your hand. Awesome, okay. So, chair tests for me were very motivating because I was a very competitive kid. I came from both of my parents. I wanted to be better than them. I had to be better than them. So I would practice. I still, sounded like a 7th grader. But I wanted to keep getting better because I wanted to be first. And then Mr. Blevins starts talking about something called all region, which made me practice more. I wanted to be good. I made all region. I kept wanting to get better. Got older. Went to Rogers High School for a year. Went to Heritage High School when it opened. And it just kept progressing itself to where music ended up being a hobby. It was a way of being creative and competitive. It was something that was very motivating because at every level, I wanted to get better. I didn't want to just make the region band. I wanted to be first chair. I didn't want to just make it to All-State. I wanted to beat everyone and be the best at All-State. Comes time to go to school, to go to college. University of Arkansas was kind enough to give me a scholarship, so I went there. And it was the same thing. I didn't want to just be good. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be the best trombone player there. Because at this point, my identity was being a fantastic trombone player. I kept progressing. I thought, wow, this is really fun. This is a great way to earn money, to be good at things. Maybe I should think about doing this for a living. That's ridiculous, right? Who thinks like that? From Rogers, Arkansas? No one. Where I grew up, you don't play trombone for a living. You go get a job at Walmart, a good job where you're going to get good benefits. You become a band director. You do things that are practical. I didn't do that. I got a music performance degree. I moved to New York City, where I went and got a master's degree at a school called Manus. And I got to study with people who play in the New York Philharmonic and the Metropolitan Opera, and had a great experience continuing to get better, learning what the standard was, not just in Fayetteville or Dallas or Kansas City, but New York and Chicago. And then starting to compete against those people. Because at that point, competing for money, competing for a job, competing for things that you want. If you want to be great, you have to surround yourself with that greatness. So I ended up working in New York, playing on Broadway shows for about a year, and taking lots and lots of auditions, and failing lots and lots of auditions. I kept getting better. I kept working at it. I took 17 auditions, and I won 2. I made it to the final round 11 times, which is excruciating. But in doing that, you continue to get better. You continue to hone yourself, working on yourself, working on your flaws, hearing, no, this isn't right, or no, this isn't quite good enough. Or, paraphrasing my beloved teacher, is that the best you got? So that's where a standard like that starts off young, and it starts to snowball, because each level is wanting to go a little bit further. And that's something that we both really want to talk about.
So together, when we finally kind of got going here, I asked Michael in 7th grade, I said, you want to take lessons? And I had a lot of lessons, so I didn't want to teach him. And I said no several times, and then his mom came in. And she's like, he really wants to take lessons. And I said, well, I'll teach him lessons if he will come in better every week, something better every week. And the day he does it, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore because he's in 7th grade, and I don't teach 7th graders privately because I had so many older kids, and I just wasn't I didn't have time for that, you know. And so she said he will, and she's going to make sure he did. And so he said, I said, Michael, what's your goal? And he looked me straight in the face on the first lesson and said, I want to be a professional musician. Okay, now, he was not the strongest player in the class. He was not. And so I did not laugh because people laughed at me when I was young and I had a goal, and they laughed and said, you can't reach that goal. So I didn't laugh. I said, I'll tell you what, Michael, if you want to be a professional musician, let's go get it. Let's just go get it. I said, but first, we need to get Polly Wally Doodle just to sound like Polly Wally Doodle, okay? Because it doesn't. So in the beginning band, Michael sounded a little something probably like this. So that's what he sounded like. That was probably a little bit more rhythmically accurate than what he played back in the day. He can't hardly not be rhythmically accurate anymore. But in the day, the poor kid couldn't hardly tap his foot and chew gum and walk at the same. He couldn't do it. But we got it. We just kept working, and then we got to some all-region stuff. We started playing some junior high all-region material. He sounded a little bit more like this. Doing that, and then we moved to the high school level, and I had the honor to get to teach him privately all the way through high school, and be affiliated with him in every step of the way. He came to me at Elmwood Junior High, and then I moved over to the Heritage side, and he was in one of the very few that was zoned to go to my school at Heritage, so I got to keep him as a student. So we got into the high school material, and then we learned a little bit of Bordeaux-me from the high school etudes. That's the melodious etudes. But he also had to play a little technical, so he played a little bit of Tiger Elf over the years. Okay, now give me my hand. That's pretty good, guys. If you play your high school, junior high etudes, just come on up, okay? You probably can, but I bet you can't do it without looking. So he just, and I just told him, asked me about that about 2 hours ago, if he could maybe pull that off. And he's like, well, we'll see. You know? And there it is, that's what happened. And then we kept pushing, we went a little bit further together, and we got into some solo ensemble stuff. Typically, I would hold off on some material till the kids were older, but Michael was progressing, and so one of the real popular trombone solos is the Rimsky-Korsakov Concerto for trombone and piano. And so I gave it to him, I think, as a 9th grader, which is a little bit uncommon. And so he played a little bit of Rimsky-Korsakov as a 9th grader solo ensemble. And so obviously he did pretty well. And then it was a little bit later when I had him come back, and after he graduated from college, I think it was, he came back to Heritage High School and played a band accompaniment arrangement of the Bluebells of Scotland. So we'll see what he's got with that. identifying the why. What does the student want from band? And I've done this almost my whole career, now I'm doing it on a Google Sheet. But when kids come into the band program every year, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I'm asking them, what do you want from band? And so some of the things, play for grandma. I want to play for grandma at Christmas, and I need jingle bells to sound like jingle bells. That's what I want. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you that. I'm going to make sure that at Christmas you can go to grandma's house, play jingle bells. It's going to sound like jingle bells. When I got my master's degree in music education, my grandmother bought me my second brand new horn, so many, many years later, Con 88. And guess what? I had to go to grandma's house at Christmas and play Christmas tunes for grandma. And let me tell you what, I don't care how old you are, when grandma wants you to play Christmas tunes for her at Christmas, you're going to play them. Okay? You're going to do it. I don't care if you're 45 years old and she's almost 100. You're playing Christmas carols for grandma. And so I did that. All until she passed away, I played Christmas carols for my grandmother on the trombone that she purchased for me when I got my master's degree. So for some kids, though, that's all they really want. And I got to understand that. Some want to make all region, all state. Michael was there. Some need to get a college scholarship because they just can't. They know they can't afford to go to school unless band can help pay for it. So I want to help get them there, and I want to explain to them how they can get there. Some want to play professionally. Now, if a 7th grade, 6th grade, so what's that, about a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid goes to the coach and says, I want to play for the Dallas Cowboys, I want to play for the New England Patriots, and I want to be the quarterback, they're probably going to get laughed at. You know, I mean, how many get that opportunity? Not very many, right? But when a musician comes to you and says, I want to be a professional musician, okay, I was never a professional musician. Never. I didn't get to that level. I mean, I barely squeaked into the all-state bands in the state of Arkansas. But I learned from my teacher, from Gerald Sloan, the pedagogy. And I told Michael, I said, I haven't done that. I haven't played on Broadway. I haven't played the Metropolitan Opera. But I've listened to a lot of it. And I think that I have the tools to help you do it. And we did some Remington warm-up studies, if you're familiar with trombone stuff. And Michael, I'm not going to lie, he thought it was the stupidest thing ever, and he wouldn't do them. And I beat him over the head with them until he went to his first professional audition, and he's in the warm-up room, and every adult player in there is playing Remington. And all of a sudden, he's like, okay, Mr. Blevins is not so stupid. You know, thank God I know how to play Remington because everybody else doing it, you know. And he started to realize that had a purpose. And then he was able to take that even further. So I think it's important that we as band directors help the kids in their why. Why are they there? And understand that just like the coaches that have all these players on the field, not every one of those kids can grow up and be a coach. You know, not every one of those kids can go to college and play ball. Our kids, not everyone's going to grow up and be a band director. Not everyone's going to grow up and be a professional musician. But they might be a contributing member to a community band or to the church music ensemble or a consumer of music. Going to those concerts, whether it's a community band or the local orchestra or the British brass band or whatever's going on in your community. Or maybe, because you know this, on Friday nights when you go to the football game, how many parents, grandparents still go to the football game though their kids are completely out of sports? Like they've grown and they come back on Friday nights, they go to the football games. So maybe we could grow a culture of parents that when their kids leave the band program, they'll look up, oh, the band concert, when's the Christmas concert? I want to go. Yeah, I don't have kids in there anymore, but I want to go support that. I want to be a consumer of the music that's happening. So we need to work hard to identify the why. And so why do we do anything? Well, Fran Kick says we do it there at the top. You can read it because it's fun. And we want to have fun doing what we're doing. Well, to have fun, look on the left bottom, you have to be good at it, or it's no fun. I tell people all the time, back in my day, I really badly wanted to play basketball. Have you noticed I'm just not quite tall enough to pull that off? Like, it's a long way up there, y'all, okay? And no matter what I was going to do, that wasn't going to work. But I tried. The difference was I had friends that carried a basketball in their hand everywhere they went. They just dribbled, they practiced, they shot everywhere they could. I didn't really put that much work into it. So I didn't get very good at it. So basketball was not very fun for me. But when it came to trombone playing, I really wanted to do it because I want to be on the front row of the big parade, and I wanted to. So I practiced all the time. I got good, it became fun. So over here on the right-hand side, the harder we work, the better we get. The more fun we have, the harder we want to work. The better we get, the more fun we have. And I explained this to the young kids because I want them to understand from the beginning. I mean, I'll say it to this group. Nobody wants to suck. Okay? Nobody wants to be terrible. So we want to have fun, but to have fun, there's a sacrifice. We have to be good, or it's not any fun. And if we don't work hard, we're not good, so we can't have any fun. And then I too would want to quit. And so I tell them that from the get-go to inspire them. We got to do this together. I'm going to do everything I can to make it fun in class, but you still have to do part of your work.
And something that Mr. Blevins said to all of us, and this is in 6th grade band, we're talking 12-year-olds, maybe some 13-year-olds who are slower. But we have this great philosophy that I've stolen from Mr. Blevins, and I'm not sure where he got it from, but the more you give, the more you get. And it's like that for everything that we do. If you want to be good at something, you're willing to make the sacrifice, you get the reward for it. If you want to buy something and you save up your money for it and you receive it, then you've truly gotten the reward aspect of it. If you want to be good at playing trombone and you practice at it and you see yourself get better in a tangible way, then it keeps working with itself more and more and more. The more you give, the more you get. So, how do we help students reach their goals?
What inspires? The knowledge. We got to have the knowledge. Tell us what you think about that.
So knowledge. Knowledge to me is the same as the more you give, the more you get. The more knowledge that we receive about something, the more curious we're going to be about it. We can talk more about the Arbin book in this area, this space, than anything else, because the more you get into it, then you start to see what the connection between various chapters is. When you learn more about music theory, you want to learn more because you start to understand things more. When you listen to one recording of a piece of music, and then you listen to 8 other recordings of it, then you start to understand different styles. So the more knowledge you receive from something or someone, then you realize that there's more underneath it. Having a goal to gain more knowledge is something that's super important, because the more knowledge that we have whenever we speak to our students, then we're able to give them more as well. Not everyone's going to want more knowledge. The kids that aren't really into band don't want more knowledge, but they're still better people for understanding what they're doing, what they're listening to. Because they're going to come back one day. They're going to be people that have children that are in band. They're going to go to symphony concerts. They're going to go to Broadway shows because they understand it. They want to know more.
So you see this picture here down here in the bottom left. Michael's playing the trumpet for this flag raising ceremony. Now, I did not encourage him to ever learn the trumpet. Later on, you're going to see it was an awesome thing that he did. But he kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to learn the trumpet on my own." And I'm like, "Yeah, put the thing down. We need to learn to play the trombone." You know, you can't be an all-state if you're goofing around with the trumpet all day. You know, and so but he just kind of did it under the table, and he learned to be quite good at the trumpet actually. And a few slides later, you'll see why that has really paid off for him.
But that's something also where, despite having this lofty goal, I wanted to learn how to play trumpet. I wanted to learn to play euphonium. I wanted to learn how to play tuba. Why would a trombone player ever need to do these things? But knowing that, having the understanding of how the different instruments work has paid off for me. When I do Broadway shows, or when I did Broadway shows, and I'm playing trombone, bass trombone, euphonium, or the rare time where I've had to play valve trombone, or the rarer times where I've had to play trumpet or tuba, it's paid off learning more about it. And Mr. Blevins, for me, was instrumental in that because he didn't tell me no. He didn't say, "You can't do this." He didn't say, "You're not very good at the trombone, why are we adding things to it?" He encouraged me by giving me Clark studies. He encouraged me by giving me all these other outlets in that. And that's where, for all of us as educators, your knowledge, your ability to look at your students and say, "Okay, I don't know how to play bassoon. We can figure it out together." I have enough knowledge about rhythm and pitch to where I can help you learn how to be a good xylophone player. And the worst case scenario is I can point you towards someone that can help you more. I can send you towards more recordings. I can give you the knowledge that you're looking for.
And these pictures here, that center picture, some of you recognize, that's Dr. Marty Reynolds, right there, young Dr. Marty Reynolds, with Michael in ensemble, and then Mr. Sloan, Michael and I, that's Mr. Sloan's retirement thing, and all three of us there together. So Michael used to say when he took lessons from Mr. Sloan at college, it was like taking lessons from me. I said, well, that's where I learned, you know, so one and the same. So we have to know the instrument.
So knowing the instrument, how many of you still play your instruments on a weekly basis? That's great. How many of you play your instruments every day? I do the same thing with my private students. It's not just you guys. So, when you know your instrument, when you have a competency on your instrument, it's so helpful because then you're able to express the ability of what you're doing to your students. With my private students that I work with, I'm fortunate to teach lots of talented young people. Because I know how to play the instrument at a pretty high technical level, I'm able to pass that on to them. For all of you, it doesn't matter so much that you're not playing the instrument every day. It does matter that you know how to make things work. You know that for a young trumpet student, you're going to have them play stamp exercises. You know for a young trombone student, you're going to have them play Remington exercises. Knowing the instrument, knowing about it, being curious about different brands, different mouthpieces, different makes and models, that all helps because it's something you can give. That goes back to, what does that inspire? More knowledge. When students see that things work, then they know that they're going to be more successful.
And you know the performer. This particular picture here at Heritage High School, he was in the first graduating class of the school. It was a brand new school. And they asked for musicians to audition and feature a musician. Now, when Michael said he was going to try out for trombone, I'm like, I don't think that's what they're talking about, Michael. They want like somebody's going to grad school with some singing, you know, or piano playing or something. And Michael, will you play a little bit of what you played on that day? Michael wanted to play for his mother the song "Memories" from Cats, from the musical Cats, and because it was her favorite song. And so he auditioned with that and won the audition for graduation. So this is Michael standing at graduation in Barnhill Arena playing "Memories" for Cats. But he used to play that because, again, when Mama wants you to play a song, by calling you to learn to play it. And so Mama wanted that song, he learned it, he played it. Not only did he play it, but he gave a tribute to her at the high school graduation. So very, very cool.
So that comes back again to knowledge, knowing the performers, knowing that Elaine Page sings Memory in Cats, knowing that Joseph Leslie is the greatest trombone player of all time, knowing various different styles, listening to Alan Bazzuti on trumpet, listening to Phil Myers on horn, being curious, wanting to hear more. Again, listening to music all the time. I grew up in a place, believe it or not, without internet. My parents were anti-internet, they weren't weird or anything like that, but we didn't have internet access in the home. Whenever I listened to music, it was on the radio or I had a CD. And I didn't know any trombone players until probably my 8th grade year, apart from Mr. Blevins and the people that I went to school with. So, because Mr. Blevins had the knowledge, he knew the great performers of the day, he gave me the CDs of Christian Lindbergh, he gave me the CDs of Blaine Trudeau, and having that put in a sound concept of, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like. then I would go and listen to Star Wars music and go, oh, they're doing that. What's the difference here between the two? And then you try to make yourself sound like that in any way. I listen to music still, a certain amount. I can walk around with the AirPods in, and my wife gets mad at me because I'm not listening to her whenever she calls for me. But in doing that, it's making me better because I'm listening to different things. It doesn't have to be just classical music. It doesn't have to be Sousa marches all the time. You can listen to hip hop. You can listen to all of these various art forms, knowing other performers other than just the musicians on your instrument, but also the instrumentalists from different countries. So again, listening, being curious, looking for more knowledge in that way.
This picture here, a few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to Boston with my daughter in the National John Phillips Music Honor Band. And when I realized that New York City was just, 3.5 hours away, I'm like, hey, that's as close to Michael's I may ever be the rest of my life. So I drove up to New York City, and so called me like on the way and said, hey, what are you doing today? He's like, well, I said, well, I'm coming up. He's like, okay, clear the schedule. And so that's us, we're hanging out in Times Square, literally on a whim. I drove 3 or 4 hours from Boston up to New York City to hang out with Michael for the day. And he kind of embarrassed me a little bit. We went around the city, saw all the sights, and we went over to Central Park, and we were going to have lunch. The band director from Arkansas could not afford the hamburger and fries, okay? I'm like, I think I'll just have water, no ice, because they're going to charge me for ice, you know? And so Michael's like, don't worry, Mr. Blevins, I'll buy your lunch. I'm like, oh no, you can't do that, you don't even really have a job, you know, he's working Broadway and stuff. He goes, Mr. Blevins, I make more a week than you probably made last 6 months. And I'm like, okay, you buy the hamburger, go ahead, you know? I'm like, okay, well, now it's getting real, you know? He's making more on Broadway than I make in several months of my teaching salary. So he kind of drove that home and like, oh, yeah, it's costing him a little bit to live, but he's doing all right. I'm not worried. But stay hungry and want to keep learning. So talk.
Sitting here is the first and last time I've grown a beard. It'll probably be a long time before I do so again. I grew it out, came home to visit my mother. She looked at me and said, staying hungry. It's really easy to get comfortable. It's really easy to get complacent in anything, right? Why I don't want to go to the gym today. I'm tired. I'm tired from yesterday. I'm tired from life. I don't want to do certain things. We have to have drive. We all have, as educators, everyone in this room, whether you're a teacher or not, you're teaching the people around you constantly with your actions, with your mannerisms. Staying on top of that is the most important thing because you never know who you're directly inspiring. I remember doing band camp with Chris Moore, who's here in the 3rd row. And every time I got to go to band camp at the University of Arkansas and work with him, I left with something where I said, that's a really great idea. I need to use that more often. It's refocusing. As educators, especially whenever you're doing private teaching, no one else except for the child's parents are going to spend more time with them than you in that moment. So that's where we have the unique opportunity, the unique perspective, and I would say the obligation to work the hardest we can with these students, to work with them as much as possible to let them meet their goals. Staying hungry for ourselves means always going out, listening to new music, coming to seminars like this or this whole week, and learning from other people different ways of doing things, of advancing ourselves more, becoming better all the time. I listen to people. I'm lucky to be in a position where I get to listen to the other DC premier bands. I get to listen to people in the New York Philharmonic or the Chicago Symphony, and it gives you a new perspective. You listen to the Tchaikovsky competition, listen to different instruments, and take things from that will make you better. Because we're always trying to get a little bit better. And that's something that from Kirkson Middle School through Elmwood Junior High and Rogers Heritage, every day was always getting a little bit better. Every lesson that I had with Mr. Blevins was getting better each day. And if I didn't, he wasn't going to teach me anymore. But it was also trying to make it a little bit better because we want to improve. We're not resting on our laurels. I remember making All-State for the first time and coming back to my next lesson, my chest is out, yeah, I'm really good. Mr. Blevins like, no. There's still further to go. Do you want to go further than this? each student. Every student's gonna respond in a different way. Every student's gonna is gonna take certain aspects of pressure, certain aspects of desire differently. And that's where it's our job to figure out as many ways to put down a puzzle piece to where it still fits in the spot. It's our job to stay hungry and learn as much as we still can through our career and our lives.
And then keeping up with the instrumental standard, what's it gonna take? And like when he made All-State, it's like, well, that's awesome, you know, glad you're first band, first year All-State, music jazz and all that, orchestra. But man, you're wanting to be in the, on Broadway, you're wanting to be in the big time. And as great as those players are, we gotta go to the next level. So you have to know the instrumental standard, and so I tried to help along the way.
And that's where I was fortunate, and something I want to say to all of you, and I'll say it to anyone who listens, it was a really lucky day for me when I walked into Kirksey. I owe this man my entire career. I owe him for his patience, for his love, for his pain whenever he had to, say, well, Michael, that kind of sucked. But in that moment, I received a lifelong friend. I received a mentor, a second father, someone that I care so deeply about, and it all came from music. It came from him adhering to all these standards that I now try to adhere to, knowing how to be better, knowing how to make ourselves better, and as such, making our students better. Knowing the instrumental standard to me is the most important thing. When you go outside of the state of Arkansas, people will say, oh, you're from Arkansas, huh? It drives me up a wall every single time. It's insulting. How are we not talked about the same way as New York, California, Texas? Because I think we should be. We have so much talent here in state, not just with our students, with our educators, with the professionals that are all around us. There's no reason why we cannot have the same reputation as all these other great state programs. Knowing the standard, it's not just about what Bentonville High School or Bryant High School or Paragould Middle School, which I don't know the name of, forgive me, but it's not just about what they are doing. It's about what they're doing in Texas. It's about what they're doing at Juilliard Pre-College. It's about knowing what Northwestern is doing as well. And that's where, whenever I work with my students, I tell them, you are not trying to beat the kid at Fairfax. You're not trying to beat the kid at Colgan. You're trying to beat me. And that's something that Mr. Blevins did for me, and it's done for so many other students, which is why he's had so much success. And the people who have the most success know the standard and aim every day to get a little closer to it or a little bit further away as they surpass that standard. So that's what I would really say to all of you. That's what we want to do when we teach. We want to be better. We want to always strive forward and go for more knowledge. So, what are we doing? You've got your goals. You want to be a consumer of music. You want your students to love music and enjoy it forever and ever and ever. You want to take the time and give time individually to all of these students so that they can meet their goal, whether it's just playing in band class and having a good time, whether it's dragging them along to other kids' goals of getting first division at sight reading or first division in marching band, or if it's going to college and reaching the highest levels. Having these skills, knowing our standards, knowing our instruments, knowing that we're always seeking more knowledge and giving it out to those students is how we reach the goals that we have.
So here's some pictures of Michael in his element here. The top right is him and some of his students in his studio when he was teaching here in Northwest Arkansas. There on the left is a trombone quartet. That's just the Army group right there, Michael, right? That's your
So
Army.
the top left photo is at Pershing's Park in Washington, D.C. It's southeast of the White House by about a block and a half. And this was playing with a concert band a couple of years ago. The bottom photo, I'm there on the left, and on the right, those of you from Conway will recognize Staff Sergeant Austin Westjohn, who's a Conway High School grad, who also plays with me and has been a wonderful friend for decades at this point, from high school, All-State, all the way through. This is my mother and I on the top left. This is a bottom right, we have myself and a very good friend, Staff Sergeant Kyle Price, who's one of our other amazing trombone players. My nephew and I play trumpet. I taught him, that poor kid. Myself at an inauguration, and my mom went in. And this is why you learn how to play trumpet. You learn how to play a second, a third instrument. If you have students that are curious about that, that's why you push them. Yeah, if you're going to do it, at least do it really, really well. Because in this photo, I was playing for the NATO conference, which is at the White House. This is on the south lawn of the White House. President Biden was about where Mr. Blevins is. I was playing at his head the whole time.
So Michael plays with the Herald trumpets, the Army Herald trumpets, from time to time. And so me and Michael kind of fostered him a little bit on the trumpet, because had we not done that, he might not have this opportunity. So again, you gotta be careful what you're saying no to, right? Because I'm really glad, even though the whole time he was doing it, I was like, I should be doing this. But he wouldn't be there, he wouldn't be in the lawn of the White House playing Herald trumpet for the President of the United States if he didn't get a chance to learn that. And so very, very cool. This is Michael and I'm Tanya at the Capitol Fort. That's just this year, 4th of July. Michael invited us up to be guests of his in the Army band for the Capitol Fort. We're about on the 4th row, and Michael's getting ready to do his thing. And so we're so proud of Michael. And he really, if you know me and my family, I have 3 girls. They're all grown and married now, and I've got a couple of grandbabies. And those are girls. So Michael is the son I never had. Okay, he is the boy that I never had, and I've really enjoyed getting to spend some time with him. And it's totally a lifelong thing. I didn't know it would be that, some years ago when he was 11, that I would be going to his house and spending a whole week with him and his lovely wife, and that I would be a guest of his on the front lawn of the Capitol for the 4th of July. And we're making some plans for Christmas at the White House, so hopefully that's going to work out soon. But we consider Michael as part of our family. So thank you for coming. If you have any, I don't know how much time we have. In 3 minutes?
When does it go to? 55?
I don't know, yeah.
Then you have 7.
7 minutes. So we got time for a question. They're going to ring the door prize. We'll definitely do that. Anybody have any thoughts, questions for Michael?
So kind of in the same manner that our all-state auditions are in. Whenever any professional ensemble has an opening, they'll have a list of music. It's usually between 20 and 25 excerpts, and you go in and you do that. You play those excerpts, and you play better than everyone else. You advance to the next round. You do that again. You advance to the next round. Repeat, repeat, repeat until they say you have the position. When I was in New York, I was studying to play in a symphony orchestra or premier band. That's the job that I wanted, that I thought this is a really good position to have. And that's where, if you ever have students that are interested in military music, I have to do this plug for a second, please check out our website, usarmyband.com. You can also type into the Google search bar Pershing Zone and read more about our unit and what we do. But the premier bands in Washington, D.C. were something I saw as a really good job. So I took an audition for one and made it to the final round. Then I took another audition, made it to the final round. I took another audition, made it to the final round. At this point, I'm freelancing in New York City. I was fortunate to get into the Broadway scene and play shows like Wicked, Les Miserables, and Lion King, and I wanted to do that, but those weren't my chairs. Chairs like that don't open up for 4 years at a time. So I had to audition for my chair. I was auditioning for orchestras as well, and it just took more and more time to where I was continuing to practice, continuing to adjust to what these groups wanted and were looking for in a member, and then take that audition and win it. So it's not just playing well, because if you make it to the final round, you're playing well, but it's choosing who is the best fit for you for 30 plus years. So that's sort of how I was taking auditions. I happened to do work on Broadway, off-Broadway, stuff with the Met, playing Carnegie. Things like that are really great, but it wasn't permanent, and I wanted something permanent.
So Michael plays now in the ceremonial band. His job with the United States Army Band is he plays in an ensemble that plays primarily funerals at Arlington. And the music room for the Pershing Zone is literally probably about twice as far from here to the back of the room from the back gate of Arlington. Like he can almost spit as far as he's in Arlington. And so when we went up there a few weeks ago, I did not realize that. So we pulled up to the band room, the Army band room, and I'm like, that's Arlington, like right there. And so we just walked over there, and Michael gave us a little VIP personal tour of Arlington National Cemetery, and then we got to watch him perform at a couple of different funeral ceremonies. One was for a colonel that had a flyover. It was really, really cool to get to see some neat things, and he does it every day, sometimes twice a day. His primary assignment, and he plays other places and just any support that the Army needs ceremonially, sometimes at the White House, the Vice President's residence, down at the Pentagon, wherever they need music ceremonially, not part necessarily of the concert band, but they all kind of intertwine. Somebody's out of the concert band, they need a trombone player, he might be in. Somebody's out of the Herald Trumpets, they need one, he might be in. They just kind of have their different assignments or missions, and so it's very cool to hang out with him for a week and learn about that.
Any more questions? I was gonna ask one of my favorite colors.
Let's do some door prizes real quick. Michael, you want to come draw some of the names? And I've got from Matt and Carrie T, looks like this little teacher gift bag.
We have Alan Nesbitt.
Alan, come on up. I'll put it right